Hey everyone, my name is Edgar. I'm an artist illustrator based in the UK currently, and these are some of the things that I've done. They're on my Instagram. My name should be, I'm recording this just talking to a wall, but my handle should appear somewhere there or somewhere here. And today specifically we're going to be digitizing this drawing that I did of my little brother a few months ago. So I know I said I'm going to be digitizing this drawing, but just for context sake, I thought I'd bring out my sketchbook and show you. In terms of scale, this is what, oops, might have hit the mic there. This is what we're going to be working with today. This is what I'm going to be digitizing. And I did it over a few days, but you know, with the power of the magic of Premiere Pro, it's all being condensed to 25 minutes, but I think it took me a couple of days because I did it in intervals. Anyway, this is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to be digitizing. Let's go back to the previous Edgar. Let's jump right into it. Okay, so this first stage is basically just tracing out, and I thought during the tracing process, since it's a simple, going over the step, I'll go through a few things. So when I am making my art or my illustrations, I can basically divide it into 4 or more or many stages, whatever you have it. But the first stage is the actual work of art. It's the thing that you're going to trace or the thing you're going to digitize. So this is where creativity comes into play. This is where you have to think of, how am I going to make this work? And somebody asked me, how do you come up with the concept? How did I come up with this concept? So how I came up with this, so my little brother is a photographer, right? So I was thinking of how do I bring his character into the image, but not just have it be like maybe him holding a camera, or maybe, that could be one idea, but then you want to think beyond that, you want to go further. And so I try to push myself and think, okay, if I was to push this idea further, what would it look like? And if I pushed it a bit further than that, what would it look like? Then eventually we ended up with this version of him. But then I tried to connect it with something else. Like I was thinking of the Terminator when I was drawing this. You know how when Arnold Schwarzenegger got shot on one side, he had part of his robotic side showing and part of his flesh part showing, or his human side showing. So I was like, aha, I can integrate that and add the lens to his eye. And it just can go into many layers. Some are cheesy, some are, depending on just how you want to play it. So you can probably say focus or the eye, or you have an eye to detail, stuff like that, blah, blah, blah. So that is the most important step. The most important step is the actual idea, the actual illustration that you want to create. And how is that illustration going to be more, or how is it going to stand out? How are people going to be like, whoa, And one thing I would say with this, even with just setting up this whole setup, it took me so long to just get the perfect lighting, to get the perfect angle, and a lot of things I had to go through for this to happen. But even with drawing stuff like this, one key ingredient that goes together with the idea is time. You have to put time into it. You have to put time so that you can get better. You have to put time in practicing. You have to put time in probably intentional repetition. But also you put in time so that you can create something maybe detailed or sophisticated or just more than a simple sketch. And then the other thing is that you shouldn't, these are not the steps, by the way, these are just random things that are coming to me. The other thing is you should not be too satisfied with, or too, don't do one sketch and be like, this is gonna be my best ever sketch, I'm gonna just work on this forever. So with time, but you have to have intentional time, you have to put in intentional work, you have to, plan it out so that you can actually get more practice put in order to lead you to that idea of perfection, whatever it is. So if you want to draw like this, or draw wherever the sketch is appearing, right? It's not something I did maybe in a day, but you could probably do it in a day as well. If you're doing it intentionally, if you take time, if you're doing it to post on Instagram or social media or just for people to see, well, that is another thing you could do. But if you want to generally improve or generally create an amazing piece of art, it does take time. And in the beginning I said 25 minutes. It's really, really sped up. So it took me a while to do this. But anyway, these are the ingredients. First ingredients or steps is you have to have the artwork itself. You have to have something that you want to create. Second thing is you draw it then. You sketch it or you draw it depending on what level of detail you want to do, when it's still in its pencil stage or its traditional stage, and when you go into digital illustration, how much you want to improve it there and stuff like that. So you sketch it out, then you trace it is what I'm doing now. So now I'm just tracing over the same lines, probably changing a few things. I think I was moving a bit too fast in the beginning because of just wanting to get it out there. But then when I realized it's a greater task than I thought it might be, I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna take my time and do it easy. So tracing isn't that difficult, but you have to, and this is where the idea of the digital, like here, Photoshop that I'm using to trace is just a tool, because at the end of the day, it's what you can do with your hand. Like what the style or the idea, the concept, they're not in the tool. Tools can help you, but if you want to create something unique, you need to have something that you bring that is of yourself into the drawing or into the illustration. So like the style that I used to draw in my pencil is the same style I used to draw when I'm doing digital drawing. Luckily, I found a brush, which is the brushes that come with Photoshop, that I really liked it. It gives me that pencil feel. I don't know why I'd never seen this brush, or maybe I just thought brushes were fancy back in the day, but it gives me the feel of the pencil that I really like. And so for this particular illustration, that is what I went for. But yeah, so this is just the process that I go through when I'm digitizing. If I was to decide to push this forward and like color it in, that would be like an entire new process. But basically, this is what I go when I'm doing illustration. You trace it, you do details, which means like the primary details, which are like the major shadows and shapes, and then I have like more details when I get into the nitty gritty, and then I have like the after effects, you can call it, or post-production, any fancy word you want to use. Basically, is after I've already completely transferred the sketch into the digital form, then I like try to play with it within Photoshop, and I do it a bit with this particular sketch at the end, though. Don't forward to the end, just wait till you watch the whole thing. Anyway, I don't think I have the actual process of doing it, but I have the results of what happened, and you can also check out my Instagram and see it. I think I'll post it there as well. Tell a friend to subscribe and to like, especially people who want to like learn how to draw, or who are genuine fans of art and illustration. That's the kind of people I think I'm hoping to help. But anyone else, I mean, if you just enjoy watching, I know I enjoy watching people paint and watching people do stuff that I probably don't do myself, but yeah. And this is not even the same day. This is the same shirt, but this is not the same day. It takes a while to do this kind of stuff. It's more work than it looks, but yeah, both to draw and to create these videos. So when I used to watch YouTube videos back in the day, I would think like, I can be a YouTuber, just take a camera. Well, it is, just take a camera and a phone camera. It is as easy as they say it is, but it's also as difficult as they probably say it is or don't say it is. Meaning, depending on the quality of the product you want at the end, same thing that applies to art applies to anything else. It applies to making videos, it applies to working. Like, depending on what your idea of a good quality product or a good quality output is, that is what is going to determine how much you put into it. And then with art, I think it's a bit funny, because once you draw something and you post it, let's say on social media, there's so many other people who do the same sort of thing, or who do art in one way or the other. And then there's that idea of like comparing and like, is mine up to par? You just can't help it but look at other people's work. So, and people also can't help but compare you and be like, oh, you draw like this person. Oh, have you seen this person? So I guess that could be, as opposed to using it as a comparing yourself to what other people are doing, you could use it as like this is a great idea this person did. I wonder how far I can push my creativity, right? Don't go crazy and, bring harm to your mental state or to your physical state. But I'm just saying that think beyond the first idea. So you have one idea, scratch it. You have another idea, scratch it, or just put it aside. And then do 3 different ideas, and then see, okay, which one of these will I develop? Or will I develop all of them? Or if you just have the first one and screw it, you go with it. But the thing is just going beyond, and that is how great ideas come across. Like for me, sometimes I could be walking down the street and I could see something, and immediately I have the entire image just pop into my head, like, that could be this. But I think that also happens from, like I was saying, time and practice and doing something over and over again. Like the more of these things you draw, the more of these things I feel you will envision or you will see and you want to develop, right? And maybe sometimes it's not that great to look at references of other artists, because you could end up being either saying that, I'm never going to be as good, or you might be like, I had an idea like that, but I didn't do it. But if you do it first, then you would realize that the phrase of great minds think alike probably applies to you as well at that point, that the idea was uniquely yours as it was uniquely that other person's. It's just that you thought of the same thing. But if you hadn't seen it, you could also make it in a different way or develop it further in a different way. And then when you see the other one, you're like, oh, it's like something I did. But then you realize like, oh, I can think of these great ideas just as this other person is, as opposed to being like, oh, I can't probably do this. When I do these drawings, I don't really have like a plan that is set in stone or like an end result that I have. So even with the sketch, if you look at the original sketch and you look at the digital sketch, there is some differences. There are things that I modify. And I think this is the bit about the finer details that I was talking about earlier, where I go in and I change things. I try to see what things I can improve. Because with digital art, sometimes it is easier to do such changes, Control Z, as opposed to when you are drawing on paper. But I look at the shadows. I try to look at the original image as well to see some of the things that I might have missed out when I was doing the first sketch. Of course, there are some inconsistencies if you had seen the original image. Like, I think the ear's positioning and the inclination of his head and the tilt of his head backwards, those things could all be corrected. And, you could easily take the original image and trace that one. But yeah, it's just depending on what you want to do. I've heard someone say that if you're not good at drawing, then tracing could be cheating if you're not good at drawing and you're tracing the original image. But if you're good at drawing, like if you can almost transfer a photograph into a drawing with your hand, just by looking and drawing, then tracing is it becomes then a shortcut to your process, depending on what you want to achieve in the end. Like, is your goal to sketch, or is your goal to create a stylized image and the like? But yeah, I did do a lot of little changes here and there, especially with making the darker bit a bit darker and trying to layer the darkness of the dark bit, trying to make it a bit more darker, I'd say. I'm saying darker a lot, but yeah, just trying so that it doesn't look like a flat shadow, but trying to make it not only darker, but also like try to imply some sort of like shape into it, like the three-dimensional shape of it, of either it was his neck or the way his face goes back to his left ear here, which is on my right, your right as well, I guess, as the viewer. Yeah, and it just takes a while to look at all these things, but it's fun. I mean, it takes a while, but I think it's one of the interesting bits, because I'm no longer using the base drawing. As you can see, I've removed the base drawing. I've turned off that layer, and I'm just going in from looking at the actual reference, looking at the shadows, looking at my drawing, looking at some things that I probably did too quick, or some lines that I want to make smaller or not as dark. And yeah, just go over it here and there and fix a few things. And it's probably never going to be done. I mean, I can continue to modify it as time goes, and because it's a personal project, I probably would not do it. But if it was, but I still could do it. If it was like client work, obviously it'll have like a deadline, and I'll be like, okay, this is it. I'm not going any further unless you intend to pay more. But yeah, otherwise I just go and add little details. Some of them are so tiny that you can barely see them when they're happening, and some of them are just very obvious. Like, you can just definitely see like, oh, something is being done here, or a change is being made here. Yeah, so it was a very interesting project, and I'm glad I was able to record it for you guys. Feel free to subscribe once again, share this with a friend, and let me know what you think. Again, you can find me on my Instagram, and you can ask me questions. I'll post the finished images there, and you can just go and have a look and ask me a question if you have any. By the way, if sometimes you feel like you're just seeing the image with no drawing, it's probably because I'm doing really, really fine details, and I zoom out just to be able to do them quicker, as opposed to if I'm doing them while zoomed in, you tend to have like a need to put a lot of detail, so I would zoom out sometimes and just do like a few lines here and there. This has been great. Thank you guys for watching, and I would see you on the next one. it.